you make it? No, I don't have any tissues. You want to go to the bathroom? Hello, hello.
Well,
Welcome back. It's been a while.
it has been a while. Okay, Jess,
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you think has been your greatest lessons or teachings from your past relationships?
Hmm. I am not too much.
Mm.
If I think back to one significant relationship that has ended, I was blaming myself a lot in that time. Mm, actually, I always heard the voice of my mom telling me like, "Oh, don't be so difficult. You know, you're very difficult. Um, give him some slack, or not everything can go your way," which obviously is humbling and good to know. But I don't think I'm that difficult. Even then, I put my needs back and I adjusted for too long, and to a point where I felt like I lost myself and I wasn't myself anymore. And obviously that happens to a lot of people. It's like tale as old as time, right? And I was in my early 20s and I found myself in a very stable, very like my house, my car, my neighborhood type of relationship. And I looked at it and I was like, this is not what I want. I
Mm.
want to travel. I want to see the world. I don't want to be stuck in a small town somewhere in Switzerland that no one knows about. And obviously, that other person was in a different point of their lives and everything. And I think I should have not dragged them along as well, obviously, right? Thinking back, it was also on me to not have ended it earlier, but also I didn't see it earlier up until the point where I then ended the relationship. Um, but yeah, that would be the biggest learning, I think, to really not put myself last and to know and really feel that what I want is not too much. It's just what I want. And I'm allowed to want more for myself, even if it means to change and to leave some people behind potentially.
If you could speak to that younger version of yourself, what do you think you'd say?
I would say don't be afraid, which then I wasn't in the end. I mean, with every decision that you make, there is fear, right, of the unknown. But I would say that was always, mm, I was never afraid. So I would tell myself to just go ahead, like just even push myself more to be faster in the decision potentially to, yeah, to not feel so much guilt afterwards. I think I felt a lot of guilt, obviously, for the other person because I hurt them, and that was never my intention, obviously. I mean, I hope no one's intention when entering a relationship is ever to hurt the other person, but yeah, it was never my intention, and I felt really bad for a while.
Mm.
But I would say it's okay. That's just life.
Mm. And what did you implement or practice when you were then doing your own thing and connecting to yourself?
a lot of self-care, a lot of, just finding out what I really want, or for me, always it was more important to figure out what I don't want and then slowly move towards what I want, because that's not always clear for me personally. I'm very much I kind of let myself drift into things, but also at the same time, I would say I've been drifting into relationships that I shouldn't have gone into because I was looking for validation in all the wrong places, as I've shared with you before. And that was a beautiful realization during the Vipassana. And but that's a bit off topic. But yeah, just figuring out what I don't want.
I mean, speaking into the Vipassana and that space being deeply introspective and sitting with that, search for validation and where you were looking. I mean, what was the biggest takeaway that you had within that introspection?
I would say that I stopped beating myself up for that, right? Because if I would think back, you know how sometimes you think back at some scenarios, some decisions, and you kind of cringe about yourself. I had this a lot in a sense of making myself smaller, or beating myself up for certain decisions, for being like, oh, you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done that. But truth is, in those moments, you don't know better, right? I didn't know that it was just chasing validation. I was, I guess, somehow some type of lover girl that just wanted to find love because I didn't see it in a way that I thought should happen at home. And then I was chasing it everywhere else that I went, with all types of connections, dating, relationships, whatever. Yeah, because also the way that I am, I would always have my heart on my sleeve, how they say, right? Kind of go all in. And yeah, that was maybe too fast sometimes. And during the Vipassana, I kind of came to terms with why and how I did certain things and stopped to make myself feel bad for it for no reason, because it's in the past and that's just how things were. And the most important thing was for me that now I know better, right? And now I know how to avoid certain scenarios, what I don't want, what I'm really looking for, what I really value. So that was the takeaway.
Beautiful. So then, was there anything in particular or an approach that you took in the early days of us meeting, for example, and stepping into a new potential connection?
Yeah, I would say we took it very slow. We made sure to follow our own plans first, because we met while we were doing our own things. And the biggest difference was that when we met, I was so happy with myself. I was so happy with where I was, what I was pursuing, just being by myself, basically.
Fair enough.
It was really beautiful. And I mean, as you know, I didn't even see it as a potential relationship when we met, right? I completely friend zoned myself from the beginning. But then when things got a bit clearer and we were like more clear on our potential intentions, we took it so slow, with so much time in between for us to think about it if we really wanted, and also distance, right? And we really had time to figure it out, in a sense of do we really want to put ourselves into this relationship and pursue what we're pursuing? And I think that was the biggest difference compared to before, where I would just rush things and be like, oh, everything is great, let's do it, let's, you know, move in together, or, you know, just way too fast. And yeah, I would say that's the biggest takeaway.
Beautiful.
Can you relate with any of the things that I was sharing?
For sure, absolutely. Yeah, I think that was definitely a standout, was the pace.
Mm.
I agree that if I look back in time and I look at my previous approaches, it was one of speed. And I think if I think about it, like it was one of those things where I was almost looking for answers fast. And I thought the faster you go, the faster you receive those answers. And that I would also arrive at the place that I wanted to be quicker. Excuse me. But ultimately, what I then realized was, looking back at past relationships, I was always looking for somebody else to complete me. And I wanted to arrive at that place because I wanted to feel whole quicker. But it took a long time and a lot of work to realize that's not how you do it. And it was incredible to look back and just witness that progression and growth within myself, how things changed and developed, what I was attracting or calling into my life. And then ultimately, very similar, like when we had met, I was very happy with where I was, very content. And it was probably the first time in my life where I stopped looking, really. And if there was a part of me that was looking in any way, I knew the reference point was within, not without. And so I could quickly change that perspective very quick, whereas before I didn't have that understanding. And so going slow, it's like, the way that I think about it is like, if you're driving in a car and you're going so fast, you literally can't even read the signs.
Can't enjoy the view.
Can't enjoy the view, you can't read the signs, or you might have seen the sign, but it was so quick and you're like, oh, whatever, it's in the past now, let's keep moving forward.
Oh, and sign in the sense of like a red flag, how you would say?
Whatever it may be, like red, green, amber, whatever, you know, if you're going too fast, you just can't see. It's hard to see. It's almost like that vision of like the scenery being blurred. And this time around, it was very different because we were going slow. Well, I mean, we're both in different countries and different islands and doing different things. So it was one of those ones where that natural pace gave the opportunity to just reflect and see what was coming up, what things felt like, how we were both showing up for the connection and ourselves, most importantly. Like, was there an honoring of self? It wasn't just, okay, well, this is going slow and now we're just going to abandon these old or these new teachings and go back to old patterns. So it wasn't coming from a place of observational, out of analysis. It was so much easier to see how I was within myself and what was coming up for me, because once again, I was trying very hard to not look outside of myself for the answers. And that was really interesting. You know, once again, I think that, you know, I've been very fortunate in a way that, you know, relationships in the past for me have taught me so much. The connections I've had in the past have taught me a great deal about myself. And I've noticed over the time how my approach has been. And in the beginning, there was like kind of no approach. It was just protection and survival kind of thing. And then it was avoidance, and avoidance was the tool. And then that went into secure, but then quickly into anxious because I wasn't actually as secure as what I thought I was. And so that transitioned into anxiousness. And then eventually it got to the point where I realized I'm like, I want to learn these lessons. I'm kind of done learning, and I don't want this to be a repeat because it's very painful. You know, it's that mirror, it's that self confrontation, it's everything that is uncomfortable, basically. But the fact that I've seen myself in those different phases and stages means that I know where I am now, I can see it, the development, and that's been very powerful and very wonderful to see because it just gives me more of a grounded point of view and deeper understanding of how far I've come, which is incredible. And I often say to myself, you know, I can get so excited about the future and romanticize my imagination and ideas of the future, but really for me it's about looking back and seeing how far I've come and you know grounding in the evidence of that fact and you know celebrating that evolution because you know it's this is a direct reflection of what has come before this. Um, and it's really powerful to arrive at a place where you're not looking outside of yourself, you know. And I think that just for me is just becomes like the daily introspection is like I just see whether or not and work out through my gauges and understandings whether I'm looking outside of myself and or whether I'm going within. And I can talk about it easily now, but it has been an absolute quest to understand this on a deeper level. Like it's all well and good, but there has been an incredible amount of time that's gone into it. And I'm beginning to I needed to remind myself of that because things that now become normal once were so far from normal. It wasn't even accessible. And now I feel that it's when something becomes normal, it's almost like there's very little signs. There's not like a celebration. It's not a it, there's a, it's a hard definition of transition. It's just it becomes normal and new.
Kind of forget how much it took to get there.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So then it's like, oh wow. Like, oh wait a minute, this was so far from what I ever could have imagined. Which
It's
is
beautiful that it's normal now.
yeah, exactly. And I say that in a nice way because there's a groundedness with it. There's a groundedness with it. So I think that's yeah, and because I look back at my life and you know it was almost like I I envision it like being in a small boat and thinking to myself, man, this boat is just rocking up and down, and then I realize I'm standing up in the boat. So normal is me just sitting down and just experiencing the natural rocks and waves of the ocean, but I'm more grounded and I can actually roll with that as opposed to causing more imbalance by standing in a situation that is not required. So
It's beautiful.
mm,
Touching base on something we've discussed a few days earlier as well when it comes to relationships and having the possibility to actually reflect on past ones while you're in the relationship that you're in now, right? Would you say that you learn more even within a relationship rather than when you're by yourself processing everything? Like, of course, you need time to process everything by yourself and reflect, especially on your own actions and contributions and standpoints or what you want to learn and take for like take in for the next one.
Mm.
But yeah, would you say there's also a lot of learnings while you're in this current relationship?
Without a doubt. I would say it's more like real time learning. It's almost when I've noticed in my experience when I've been on my own, it's like studying for an exam. It's like doing the reflection, the introspection, the note taking, the memory that comes with it, the analysis, everything, the data points that you're like, how can I learn more about avoid like more about myself so I avoid this situation again naturally and organically. But then when you're in a relationship, it's like, okay, well, everything I learned at that, hopefully in that time on my own, is now coming into a real life practice. And it's really powerful because it's almost like within the test, there's things that you absolutely breeze, you nail. You're just like, oh, great, that's been embodied, that's been learned. I didn't even have to think about that. That's kind of like that normal. But there is other things that come up, right? Because I mean, relationships are the closest things that we have in our lives, and also the relationship with ourselves, but with your person. So things are naturally coming up, and if there's things that are undealt with or unprocessed, or that kind of baggage storage, then it's like that's gonna make its way to the surface. And so I've always looked at it also too, like because I've traveled a lot in my life and I've also stayed put and shot roots, that there's only certain lessons you can learn by leaving, and there's only certain lessons you can learn by staying. But it's very hard to learn the lessons in the opposite because they're different teachings. So same as like when you're single on your own to then when you're in a relationship, it's the same. In my opinion, it's the same thing. So yeah, that's why I think it can be very confronting at times, because when you think that something that you've worked through reappears, then it reminds you like, wow, there's still work to be done. And I mean, that's kind of bittersweet, right? So when a person has taken the time to really understand their fundamentals and build that foundation, those building blocks, and kind of acquired and collected enough tools to be able to communicate feelings, expressions, needs, emotions, and translate or transcribe that to their partner, then it makes things so much easier because I can let you in. And if I look back, that's something I never really did before. I never really let anybody in. And in fact, it was the opposite. I used to think that healing was done alone. So I push people away. So when one can articulate themselves, it is laying down the map. It's laying down the instructions. It's putting down the kind of clues and guidance for the other person to know how to be there for them and show up. And that's changed everything. Absolutely everything. Because I'm just as human as the next person. I have my great days and I have my bad days. But now I can be genuine about those experiences. And 9 times out of 10, when you're having a bad day, but you can express it, it actually makes it much better.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking from the receiving end, it's incredible just to be clear. It's like not driving in the fog.
Yeah.
It's exactly. Like you see the road, you know exactly why, or it's safe because it doesn't make you guess. I don't have to be hyper vigilant and kind of walk around eggshells and wonder, oh, did I do something wrong? Because obviously, personally, that's where I look first.
Sure.
Right? And if you can tell me, hey, I'm just having a bad day because so and so, because I don't know, I stepped into dog shit earlier. Like, amazing. Then I know that's why. It's not me.
Yeah.
And we can work on it. Or we cannot, whatever, right? But it's so beautiful, and I've shared that with some of my girlfriends, that it's so amazing to actually just be with someone that knows how to communicate. Even though that sounds so trivial, it's a game changer. It's someone that actually knows their own emotions, or actually takes time to figure that out, and then being even able to voice it, because that's like the next step, right? It's not just knowing, but also being able to share it. And it's been also like an amazing learning curve for myself, right? Because I would also keep things in or think that you should know, but obviously, how can you? You can't read my mind. It's like tale as old as time, right? As well. But sometimes you forget. Sometimes you think like, oh, he should know or whatever, which doesn't even make sense. Like, how? And yeah, I think that's so beautiful when you have the tools and the capacity to share, but to also receive and listen. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it's once again, I kind of always look at it like within an analogy of learning how to do something, particularly like playing a musical instrument. Confidence comes through repetition of something. And if you pick up some kind of instrument and it's the first time ever doing so, it's the repetition that builds the skill set, which creates the confidence. So rewinding many moons ago was going from so far back to the point where I would shut down, completely shut down, like, stonewall. It was like I'd had nothing. I was so emotionally overwhelmed that I couldn't even communicate. So now being able to even just open that door a little bit, let you in and just say, this is this. And exactly what you said, just make sure that you know that it's not about you. Because, the truth is, it's never about the other person. It's always about something that's within us, right? That's what it is. There's a frustration, there's an angst, there's a disappointment, there's that feeling within us. And it's just the outside world that's triggered that. And so when we can offer that to the other person, then you're able to actually let the air come through the space, let the connection still remain, and then have the other person can ask, what do you need? Like, or I'm here, just let you know that I'm here, whatever you need, whenever the time's right. Because deep down, I remember many times where I could feel my kind of inner self like desperately wanting to reach out, but that external wall, that armor, like protecting that from even coming out, that truth even coming out. And that's all I wanted. I wanted that support. I wanted that comfort. I wanted that reassurance. But the armor was protecting that from coming out. And I think that's what I have learned over the years, that when one is grown up in survival or even just gone through life and had taken some heavy hits, and the armor that they use to protect them from the outside world, yes, it protects things from coming in, but it also stops things from going out. And it's our truth that wants to come out. It's that inner part of us that requires certain things emotionally. And if we don't nurture that, then it is the kind of like the apple rotting from the core. It's rotting from the inside out. It's decomposing, because that is what needs to be supported, nourished, nurtured, and embraced. It's not polishing the armor. It's supporting the true inner emotions.
It's a good place to end the conversation.
Yeah, let's go.
We haven't even done a sound check. We were pretty confident about everything.